Hello, I'm Theodore Parker. This is a side show, and this is Monday, September 26, 2022. Around here, the temperature is about 54, going up to 70. Don't forget about the mask. If you're going out, I'm not so much outdoors, but if you have to enter buildings, take care of your business, the mask helps. I previously talked about the positivity rate being around 20%, and that this would be a good way to help prevent the spread of COVID 19 and its variants and to bring down the positivity rate. So, coming out of the weekend, across the United States, positivity rate is now 10.7%, down 5.3% from last week. So, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Here in Kentucky, it is down just a little bit above the national positivity rate at this point at 11.9%, 96%, still down from 20%. So if it works, it works. There we go. We got this kind of thing going on. Weather-wise, I mentioned the weather around the world. And in the United States, we've got like a series of storms coming up, typically referred to as hurricane season. Alaska, Nova Scotia, off the coast of Alaska, is seeking aid from Hurricane Ian. And Cuba, tomorrow, is going to have storm weather. And then on to Florida. I think around here, we'll start getting rain toward the end of this week. Thursday and Friday. The temperatures have been comfortable, that fall feeling, chill in the air in the morning. Around here, like in my residence, living area, whatever, I haven't adjusted the thermostat yet. So when the temperature goes down below the setting, then it feels a little bit warm, a little bit close or whatever. So I've been running the ceiling fan a little bit, but it's still not time to like turn it off or switch the heat yet. We just got that line moving throughout the day and the night. Sports over the weekend. Football, week 3. If your team didn't win, or your favorite sports team didn't win in football, we got week 4 coming up. In the sweet science, Floyd Mayweather recorded a straightforward victory over Japanese MMA fighter and YouTuber Bakuri Asakura in Satamiya, Japan. That was a $20 million payday for Floyd Mayweather as he knocked his opponent out in the second round, or close to the end of the second round. Highlights for that are on YouTube if you want to take a look. But still, undefeated, Floyd Mayweather. Which took me back to the early days of boxing, or earlier days of boxing, when Muhammad Ali took on a karate fighter. But this MMA fighter did not use his kicking skills, just his hand skills, whereas Muhammad Ali's karate opponent did kick at him, probably landing one kick in the side. But at that point, Muhammad knocked him out, which continues the Ali family line. The grandson is now 4-1 in the squared circle. So there we have it, boxing. Hispanic Heritage Month. On this day in 1924, the Grima Rios, her proper name is just a little bit too long for me to try to work out right now, plus I had to read it and couldn't write it. But in Uruguay, she was born September 26, La Grima Rios. And she is known for the tango. Went on to accrue quite a lot of recognition for that particular dance and her other contributions to Hispanic heritage dancing. This information was curated to you by the University of Arizona. Speaking of Hispanic heritage, former President Trump had informed the Space Force when he was president, which was a military force for outer space. Now, a composer of Hispanic heritage has given them a song, Always Above. So it seems to be warmly received. I'd forgotten that there was a Space Force. Speaking of immigration and migration, Governor Abbott in Texas and DeSantis in Florida are still sending migrants to Democratic states. And the latest transports have arrived at Vice President Kamala Harris's house. This led to a almost 20-minute discussion presented by CNN on whether or not this is a actual, real, factual thing. Are these border towns really that crowded where you have to use buses and trip them across the country and put them on airplanes, not just one, but two, and transport them to other parts of the country? So the person interviewed said, yes, border towns are extremely overcrowded. So we'll see how that goes. Russia experiences a school shooting. This was number one. I was kind of like shocked. 13 dead. Gunmen died from self-inflicted gunshot wounds. And as far as weather is concerned, other places around the world are experiencing their rainy season, which typically runs from August to March. So heavy rains and strong winds are expected during these particular months. Now to the thing. From the 23rd to the 27th, if I'm speaking correctly, Russia is trying to arrange a voting situation to annex parts of the Ukraine. Now, this is probably, if you're anything like me, it's a little bit more to like comprehend, understand, and all the rest of that kind of stuff. So, what does all that mean? Russia has troops in several places in Ukraine, which means you can use the word occupied. One of those primary places, which is causing concern because of their offhanded way of doing things, is where the nuclear power plant is at. Russia, in the meantime, the United Nations Security Agency or Security Committee, oversees these type of things, and they put it to a vote. So previously, this came under discussion in regards to the Ukrainian-Russian area for Crimea. And sometimes you might hear conversations saying that they annexed Crimea or whatever the case may be. So it gets a little cloudy in the thought processes as to what is actually going on. Yeah. So how all this kind of came about, you say, well, was Ukraine ever this way or that way? The previous president for Ukraine had voted not to become a part of NATO. So when President Zelensky came into office, he was already in that position. But as things took off early this year, specifically in February, then that needed to be changed. So in Russia's aggression with their special military operations, they have lost their vote to their right to the veto vote in the United Nations in regards to Ukraine and other things. And at the time that this thing with Crimea was going on in 2014, um, all the other nations voted against it. Russia vetoed, and China abstained. So now we have these latest, developments, and hopefully, if I show you this, like I said, this is presented by Al Jazeera, and they're like a people's representation, if you can see it. Okay, so there you have Russia. You have the 4 areas under discussion where most likely whatever Russians are there will be voting, and then the little red area is Crimea, which is, instead of being a part of any of this, is independent to itself. Okay? So you have Ukraine, and then you see Russia, and you can see how they would come down that side and try to take over and create that land bridge and break things up. Okay? So, political wise, you say to yourself, yeah, I know, but really I didn't. So here's a more detailed, if it'll hold up, of the same area. Now you have the surrounding countries, Poland and everybody else, Belarus, and those same 4 occupied areas. And if you were to use a comparison, that area that Russia has occupied or gotten controlled and troops in is about 15% of the Ukrainian country, which would be equal to about the size of the state of Pennsylvania. So now you got a visual of this. So this voting process, which will probably be heavily influenced by Russian people in those areas, is taking place from the 23rd to the 27th. Although no other country, and especially the United Nations, is going to recognize the results of it. So there you have that. So that's a pretty good representation of what's going on in that part of the world presently, with the surrounding countries that would also be involved. But again, the United Nations is not recognizing this as a process because taking land by force is not allowed. They can reach an agreement that they will, like, per se sell, which is how most governments in the world have acquired other land properties, because those people that own it sell it, but you cannot take it. So there you have it. So a couple more days of that kind of action, and we'll see what develops from there. So this is the last week of September. When we come out of next weekend, it will be into October. So this is Monday, September 26, 2022. This is the Side Show. I'm Theodore Parker. That's it. Hashtag.